The Edmonton Oilers eked out a 4-3 overtime win over the New York Islanders tonight, and we're going to talk all about it on today's edition of Locked On Oilers.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. I want to thank everyone who's making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, where you can start the season with a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. So tonight's episode of Locked On Oilers, we are going to dive into their overtime win over the Islanders. We're going to talk about it from a few perspectives. Our first segment, we're going to pay tribute to Connor McDavid and Leon Drasaitl and their hard carry effort tonight. I'll explain what hard carry means. I'll explain why they were so crucial to tonight's win and why it might reflect where the team is going overall. Our second segment, we're going to peel that back a little bit more. We're going to try and diagnose why this game was even close, being that the Islanders didn't play good hockey for a good 55 minutes. And then our final segment, we're going to build off of some of the recurring themes we've been talking about as the season's gone along, about trying to form good habits, to build momentum, because right now, and we can tie this to McDavid and Drasaitl as well, right now, it feels like the Oilers are playing on credit, for a lack of a better term. It feels like the Oilers' talent is buying them patience. It is buying them credibility, because when you watch, the hockey is not, it doesn't look right. And that sounds very anecdotal and anti-evidence. You know me, I love my evidence. I love my stats, because the underlying numbers still look good. You know, the Oilers outshot the Islanders pretty significantly. They controlled possession. They generated high danger chances. But to get there, it looks very inefficient. And that's kind of the antithesis of Oilers hockey, at least in the last handful of seasons. Because what makes the Oilers, the Oilers, I'm going to mix up Oilers and Islanders at least 3 or 4 times in this conversation, because the words sound similar. The blue and orange jerseys, they blend together in your head. So if I do make that mistake and don't catch it, I apologize in advance. But the Oilers are a team that is predicated on quick strike, counterattack hockey. They want to catch you off balance. Because they're so talented, they're going to be able to get the puck to dangerous areas, and their shooters are so good at shooting the puck that they're going to be able to convert those chances. But so far this season, offense has been pretty hard to come by. You know, coming into tonight, the Oilers had, I want to say it was 40 some odd goal. They've scored 40 goals in the 15 games they had played coming into tonight. The league average is 47 goals coming into tonight's action. Of course, now they're up to 44 and 16, so the number goes up just a smidge. But for the most part, tonight was a Drasaitl McDavid game. Chris Knobloch did a nice job of getting them out there together for a few extra shifts during the course of the game. I thought the Oilers, when they were looking right in this game, were largely in the McDavid-Draisaitl minutes. And it's not a surprise that you're going to see a team that's struggling offensively look for opportunities to surge. And let's establish the chronology of order here, the chronology of events. The Oilers are a team that if they get a power play goal early, they should be able to bury you and put the game away. You got exactly as you draw it up. You know, if you were talking about plan A, plan B, plan C on an Oilers power play, a pass to Draisaitl for the one-timer at the bottom of the right cycle short side is plan A. That is the Oilers' favorite or most efficient, or I would dare say best play on the power play, is that Draisaitl one-timer, because you catch the goalie moving, and Draisaitl is such a talented shooter, and from that close, you have a very high percentage play, something you have a good chance of making work. And when you get out to that lead, you should be smelling blood, because the New York Islanders are a reeling hockey team with no Matt Barzal, with no Anthony Duclair, with a litany of replacement level or worse players, the opportunity to bury a bad team and really build some momentum was present tonight. And the Oilers could not find that second goal as much as they tried. And look, they had some great looks. I thought the Ekholm jam play at the net mouth was really good. Him taking the wraparound, trying to get Sorokin low. It was a good play. Sorokin just happened to stick his pad out. Prior to the Bouchard goal, Hyman had a great chance at the net mouth, and Connor McDavid had a great chance at the net mouth. And ultimately, they were able to circle back around, get the puck to Bouchard, who ended up beating Sorokin high on the far side. But when you are a team that is struggling offensively, it is really hard to get your game going. And look, McDavid and Draisaitl did everything they could tonight. They combined for 6 points. I know that it is going to be very easy most nights for the Oilers to fall back on this, to just expect greatness. And look, if anybody can do this for a full regular season, we know it's McDavid and Draisaitl, because we've seen them do this before. We've seen them be two of the 7-8 best players in the world for an entire regular season and do it at an extremely high level and put other teams on notice. And even if it is an inefficient way to play, it's a difficult way to play. And that's really the point I want to hammer home in this first segment, talking about McDavid and Draisaitl. They are truly special. They are transcendent talents. They have the ability to change a game state on their own. The problem for the Oilers, and this is not a uniquely an Oilers problem, but it is very present on this Oilers team, they are very talented, but they are banking on their talent to fix their problems right now. They are banking on guys making individual plays outside of structure with real frequency to be better than the environment. And McDavid and Draisaitl are good enough to do that. I think Evan Bouchard is good enough to do that, but he still makes some bad mistakes. I think those are both inexperience, and just his toolbox for his position isn't perfect. Bouchard's a really good positional defender, but he's never going to be confused with Scott Stevens as far as physicality and blocking shots. And I'm not saying it's a requisite to be a good NHL defenseman to block shots and to be able to body check, but those are components of playing defense. You do need to be able to take the body from time to time, especially in and around your own net mouth. Because let's be frank here. If McDavid and Draisaitl don't bail the Oilers out, there's another loss tonight. And that sounds reductive. Well, Nick, of course, they have McDavid and Draisaitl. Why shouldn't they rely on them to carry the load? Well, conceptually, sure. If we're only talking about regular season, Oilers will win 47, 48 games playing like this because they have more talent than most teams. On talent alone, the Oilers shouldn't have issues against the Islanders. On talent alone, they shouldn't have an issue against the Sharks or the Blackhawks or the Ducks or the Senators or the Canadiens. I can keep going on, or the Blues. There are so many mediocre and outright bad teams that if the game plan comes down to, all right, Connor, all right, Leon, you guys and Evan make something happen for us and we'll win the game more often than not. It's hard to tell teams that's not a good strategy, because we see that for all over the league, where teams that are pretty good aren't willing to take risks in their roster construction. They say, well, we're one of the 6 or 7 best teams. Let's get to the playoffs and we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in the NHL playoffs. But I do want to wrap up this first segment on McDavid and Draisaitl on this note. It's something when that's going, man. I think it sticks out in my head specifically that Bouchard had the puck in the offensive zone. He maintained the zone as the forwards went off. It was Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins going off and Leon and Connor coming on. Bouchard circled around at the top of the offensive zone, and both McDavid and Draisaitl jumped off the bench with real assertiveness, we're getting in this play right away. And of course, you get the goal. And when you have talent like McDavid, like Draisaitl, you can overcome some adversity. So we're going to take our first break here on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. And when we come back, we're going to drop back a little bit further, a little bit bigger picture, talk a bit more about the game at large, as opposed to just focusing on the Oilers superstars. Coming up next. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gifts with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners here get an extra $30 off with promo code NHL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. Minimum purchase may apply. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at SelectQuote. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in the end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $7 billion in coverage. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less. Well, SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million, no medical exam required. Head to SelectQuote.com and an insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for you and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. One more time, that's selectquote.com/NHL. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out on this midweek hump day edition of Locked On Oilers, where we are trying to make it to the weekend. And look, this is the epitome of a sports first world problem. I know there are going to be a lot of people out there who are listening to today's show who are asking why I have such a negative tenor about the Oilers finding a way to pull a game out of their butt, even though they didn't play particularly well. The problem is, and this is a macro level problem, this is a foundational, institutional, cultural issue. When you are a talented team, and you play on credit on the assumption that you're eventually going to turn it on, that the idea that you're a light switch team, that you have the talent to no matter what, figure it out, is a dangerous game to play. I think about my friends, some people I know, people that help me, myself, who struggle with executive dysfunction, where I can't get anything done unless I have a lingering clock ticking down on me. You know, I have one of these little handy dandy time manager devices that help keeps me focused, where if I'm working against the clock, I'm more inclined to get that work done faster because I have that clock lingering and ticking down. And the Oilers are kind of in that same boat. Tonight's effort against the Islanders, it wasn't that they played poorly or that they didn't have a winning recipe. You know, they controlled play. They had a lot of scoring chances. Sorokin is a quality goaltender in today's NHL. I wanted to see the Oilers find that goal to put this game away. Sitting at 3-1 and not putting the game away in regulation, it's not great. You know, you let Anders Lee score 2 goals in a very short window of time, in a 5-minute window, and it's really frustrating that the Oilers struggled to put away an inferior hockey team based on just mistakes. You know, if you go look at the visualizations on NHL.com from the goals, the first league goal only happens because they can't clear the zone. The puck goes behind the Edmonton net, it goes up the wall, Ryan Pulock takes a medium quality chance and nobody covers the back door. Lee crashes down and he scores. If you look at the second goal, it's more of the same thing. It's Lee leaking in behind the defense where he's at the net front. He's jockeying with Ekholm and they're able to get it around Ekholm. And look, hockey is by definition a counter sport, a pounce sport, an opportunistic sport. And individual players with talent are going to be able to take advantage of your mistakes. That's the Oilers' entire ethos. And the Islanders were able to do that to some degree tonight. If you force the Oilers to play defense, you are eventually going to get them into a mistake, even when Ekholm and Bouchard are out there, because individually, their talents are rooted in transition. They are rooted in the offensive zone. And Ekholm is a good defensive defenseman, but he's not burly. He's not brawlic. He's not going to win a leverage battle with Anders Lee, who's a big dude, by the way. So, you can understand why Ekholm's going to lose that battle. But when you consistently are playing on the idea of, well, we can get better than this, eventually the time comes where you don't have more time. I made the comparison of a semester-long project earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week on one of the episodes, that when you start a semester-long project with 13 weeks is a long time to get a project done. 2 weeks is not a long time. You keep going out on Wednesdays, you keep going out to dinner, you keep slacking off on interviews, you keep slacking off on source accumulation, you keep slacking off on database research, and really soon you have 2 weeks to do 10 weeks worth of work. And the Oilers are talented enough where they can get away with this. The problem comes when you get out there, and I hate to use this expression because it always drove me crazy when I was in school, whether it was college or in high school. But in the real world, deadlines are not as fluid. If you mess up, your boss isn't going to have the same courtesy to you as a college professor would if you explained your situation to them a little bit. I struggle to find where the Oilers are going to get better in terms of talent. So it has to be with their play. They're going to add someone at the deadline, barring something unforeseen, whether it's more injuries or if they have a shock promotion or Emberson or Stetcher or Dermott really seems to turn a corner or Nurse turn a corner. But this is a team that needs to add. But for now, with 5 months till the NHL trade deadline, the Oilers can't wait that long. Right now, their play is pretty unremarkable. It is slow. It is clunky. The volume of passes to nobody drives me up the wall. I understand that Evan Bouchard is a great player. I understand that Connor McDavid is a great player. I understand Leon Draisaitl is a great player. The volume of passes to nobody makes me want to rip my hair out. I think about, there was this one pass in the neutral zone that I believe it led to the first Islander goal, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was the first Islander goal that Palmieri scores. The Oilers are executing a breakout. Bouchard has the puck. He's about to enter the neutral zone. He is perpendicular to the blue line. So he is facing the blue line, not forward. Instead of squaring himself to move the puck and pass it forward, he stays lateral, whips the puck up to Hyman, passes way too hard because he doesn't have good position, doesn't have good technique, misses him entirely. Scott Mayfield is able to win the puck because he overpasses, and then the Islanders are off to the races. Ekholm comes up and pinches up at the blue line. He tries to take Brock Nelson out of the play. Brock Nelson is able to get the puck up to Sisklikov. I got to look up how to pronounce that Islander forward's name. That's not a good job by me. But they get the puck into the offensive zone entirely because of a mistake. And some mistakes are excusable. You overcommit like Ekholm did. I can live with that. Bouchard turning a puck over under the slightest bit of pressure and not getting back on defense. Come on, man. It's really that simple. And look, I know I've been hard on Bouchard's defense over the last few weeks. The Vegas game stands out as well as being a poor defensive game for him. But this is a talented hockey player. And as much as he has the puck, I know great players have the puck a lot, so they're more inclined to have more turnovers. At a certain point, just take the easy play. I don't need the all-world play all the time. The simple stuff works sometimes. We're going to take one more break on today's show, and we're going to build it out even further, and we're going to take the season-long macro view of this game coming up next. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel if you were to open up the FanDuel app and look per se. On Thursday Night Football, Jaden Daniels versus Jalen Hurts, the Commanders, the Eagles. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. Fun game this weekend, Ravens-Steelers. We got the Ravens are 3-point road favorites going to Pittsburgh. Got a great AFC title game from a few years ago rematch. We've got Bills, Chiefs going to Buffalo, where the Bills are 1.5-point favorites. All of that over at FanDuel.com. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Oilers, where sometimes I do have to remind myself to take a deep breath. I really want things to go well for this team. There is too much talent on this team for me to be as frustrated as I am most nights when I watch. The volume of simple mistakes drives me crazy. I am very understanding when it comes to a great player making a mistake. They have equity. I am okay with Bouchard making the mistakes he does because he makes so many good plays. Ditto McDavid, ditto Drasaitl. I thought Hyman was pretty noticeable tonight. I thought he had one of his better games tonight of the season. I thought he was very involved. I thought he was around the net a little bit more. And I think as the Oilers special teams continue to stabilize, they had a nice game on the penalty kill tonight, which is something that with time should straighten itself out. I'm not guaranteeing the Oilers penalty kill is going to do anything remarkable this year, but I do think it's safe to say they won't be the worst penalty kill in the entire league. I think that was an extreme small sample size type deal where as they play more games, those numbers will be a little more respectable and they won't be as glaring of a deficiency. But the Oilers recipe is very straightforward. This team is built to dominate the Connor McDavid minutes. It is built to thoroughly win. I won't say dominate because that's not as fair based on the defensive deployments, but thoroughly win the Drasaitl minutes. Against most teams, their third line on paper should be good enough to play 50-50. Their fourth line is good enough to play 50-50. They put the game away. They pull away from teams on special teams. That is the Oilers recipe. I don't expect the Oilers to be perfect. Nobody wins all 82 games. Nobody goes 100% on any unit. But the Oilers have room to play better. And that's my goal here. I want to see the Oilers continue to win and building off of their wins. Winning the way they did in Vancouver the other night was great. It really felt like wow, this could be a turning point for the season type game. We put a butt kicking on a division rival who we played in the playoffs last year, and that series was really close, and their fans still haven't let it go. That McDavid probably high-stick Quinn Hughes in Game 7. I get it. I do. That Brock Besser didn't play in Game 7. You felt like you didn't get a fair shake. I can understand that frustration from a Canucks perspective, but you put a butt kicking on them. You hung a 7 spot. Then you come into your own building tonight against a bad Islanders team that keeps going to overtime, that doesn't have enough scoring, that doesn't play great defense, that's overly reliant on a great goalie. And at that point, you take it for granted. There was a point in this game where it had been 1-0 for a while off of the Drasaitl goal. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, Well, they're not winning this game 1-0. They're going to need to score at least one more goal if they'd like to win tonight. And of course, they do end up scoring enough goals to win this game, but this game had no business to going to overtime in the first place. They should have won this game 3-1 in regulation and put this on ice. But the attention to detail is not there yet. The Oilers, I think, are still in the early stages. For lack of a better expression, they're in the training wheel stages of this season still. We are 16 games in. They are still trying to figure it all out. I thought tonight was one of the more passable performances. I still think the defensive effort from a team perspective is pretty subpar most nights, but I'm never going to get great technical defense from this group, forward or defense. So you got to pick your battles where you can. But McDavid and Draisaitl had a little bit of juice tonight. And I think that's what really jumped out to me about this game is that Bo Horvat's a good player. He's not in the same planet as McDavid or Draisaitl. And I thought Horvat had a decent game. You know, he made a couple of really nice plays on McDavid defensively. But the talent disparity really jumps out between the superheroes like McDavid and Draisaitl and the normies when you play a team like the Islanders that doesn't have anybody who's that good. That makes McDavid and Draisaitl look that much better. You know, I was starting to get worried there in the overtime. I was like, well, are they going to go right back to McDavid Draisaitl, or are we going to get one more forward group then McDavid Draisaitl? Are they going to have enough time to get something going? And lo and behold, Chris Knobloch heard me wondering the question out loud because Connor and Leon both jumped over the boards with rockets up their butt. There's no other way to say it. They jumped over that wall and they flew. Bouchard brings the puck in. He holds the puck at the blue line. Draisaitl and McDavid come on. They do a drop pass from McDavid to Draisaitl, and Draisaitl gets outside position, but he has such good outside position. He's able to get around the Islander forward who's out of position. You know, if you go back and rewatch the animation or you watch the highlight, they run a simple drop pass to Bouchard from Nuge. Bouchard holds. Nobody on the Islanders tries to pressure Bouchard as the two Oiler forwards are going for a change. They successfully execute the handoff from from Bouchard to McDavid, and then McDavid hits Draisaitl on the circle. And at that point, Draisaitl's got a clear sight line to the net. He's just got to get around that Islander defender, and he does that with relative ease. You know, I thought the Islanders did a decent job in this game of slowing it down and mucking it up and giving the Oilers a lot of low-quality chances to take advantage of. But the talent gap between these two teams is too big for the Islanders to overcome the mistakes they made in this game. On the other hand, the Oilers were able to overcome the mistakes they made because of the talent they do have. But that will do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. So before we get out of here, if you could be so kind, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify and you're new around here, give the show a 5-star review. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm bell so you get a notification whenever new content goes live. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Oilers.